Good afternoon. Welcome to the Sunbelt webinar on secrets to getting the most for your business. I'm Joan Young, the president of Sunbelt, and my co-presenter today is Eric Nielsen. He's our senior business consultant and intermediary for Sunbelt. So I think most everybody is on. I think some of you will already recognize the value drivers that we're going to talk about are the secrets to getting your the most from your business. Some of them are going to be obvious, but I am going to drive home today the number one issue, which is having motivated and experienced management team. Probably nothing else will get done without that. So hopefully it's going to be very helpful to you. By the way, Sunbelt is the largest business brokerage network throughout the world. We have over 250 offices and have been around for over 25 years. So hopefully we'll be able to help you when the timing is right. Definitely, the number one reason that buyers do not move forward is because of risks. Risks that they think they're going to be in for. So definitely buyers look at more than EBITDA. You probably are familiar with that term. It's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. We call it adjusted net or seller's discretionary earnings for smaller businesses. But they're definitely looking for all the attributes that reduce the risks and increase the return. Definitely sellers must create value prior to the sale. You really do need to conduct a sales process that's going to compel the buyer to pay you top dollar. And I know some sellers, when they're ready, they're just willing to take anything to get out, but we don't want you to be in that position when it is time. You want to be positioned so it's somebody is going to be fighting for your business. You really need to start thinking now about your good story. It is so important for your business to have a good story. One company that I'm working with right now definitely has one. His trailing 12 months, he's made over $700,000 in adjusted net. And and this was the trailing 12 months. It was during the worst year that I can remember last year. And the way he did that was to cut expenses, of course. He got very creative with his marketing and how he could get in front of some of the best potential clients for very little. He even diversified his client base. His management team is very well seasoned. And the good news is they're in their 40s. They're not 70. And they have moved up within the company, so they know the whole process and add such value to the business. And the seller, if he decides not to come in for a week, the business still thrives, they still add business, and production goes on, which is something you really need to be thinking about. I think it's very important for you to know in advance what qualities your business is going to need to possess before a buyer is going to pay the most for the company. We call these value drivers. So I'm going to go over quickly what we're going to cover today. The first one, as I mentioned, was having a stable, motivated management team and a high-performing workforce. The second value driver are systems that sustain the growth of your business. You need to have an established and diversified client base, appearance of the business consistent with the asking price, realistic growth strategies, effective and documented financial control, and growth in cash flow, profitability, and sales revenue. And we're going to talk about protected proprietary process and technology. So let's look at the first one. Before we do that, definitely value drivers, the ones that we are going to discuss, are definitely going to put more money in your pocket, but it's also going to make your business much more saleable. If you don't have these value drivers, there's a very good chance that your business is not going to be for sale. Okay? So the number one most important value driver that you're going to need to look at very closely with your company is, how is your management team? Is it stable, and what about the other people working with you? None of the other drivers can be achieved on your own. We call it at Sunbelt, when it's all about Bob, one person is driving the business, and if Bob doesn't show up, nothing happens. It definitely, and I'm sure everybody on this call will agree, it definitely takes a team in order to produce it. And you definitely want that team to have a variety of skills. That example of that good story that I told you about, he's in a sign fabrication business, and he can't draw a straight line, not creative even a little bit. So, of course, he hired people that had that skill. It's sort of like those of you who enjoy football. It's, in football, you definitely, have to have your star quarterback and your running back, but, man, if that team doesn't have a good coach and good supporting players, they're not going to be a winning team, are they? The same thing is true about your business. It is definitely the people who produce the revenue. Ask yourself, if nobody came in tomorrow, would your business be very valuable, or would it get much done? And the answer, of course, is no. So many people think, but I've got great products and I've got good systems. But just remember, at all times, it is the people that make your business. Also ask yourself the staying power of the management and the team, age and experience. I've seen companies where the general manager is almost 70. That is going to be a risk for a buyer. He knows he's not going to be around much longer. Another thing that scares buyers, if you have a lot of family members working for your business, will they walk when you walk? So remember, we're trying to mitigate any risk whatsoever for the buyer. So before we discuss how you motivate your key employees to increasing the value of your business and staying, I think we ought to talk about the obvious one, the value of the business of the multiples that everybody talks about. Yes, it's definitely a multiple times EBITDA or adjusted net is going to equal the sales price. Buyers like this. They like to know that there's a quantitative way of figuring out what your business is worth. But they also need to know the unknowns. So the multiple that applies to your company is based on your value drivers. So this management team is going to be so important, and that is what a buyer is really going to want to know about. So let's assume you have that. Now, how are you going to motivate your key employees? I think if you look at an example, let's just call it Business A and Business B, and each have $3 million of EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. Let's say they're located in the same city and it's the same business. And Business A has strong management, has a good team. They're motivated by economic incentive to both improve the company performance and remain on, throughout the ownership transition. But Business A has developed and documented systems. They've sustained growth of the business apart from its owner. It has, diversified customer base, and, no customer represents more than 8%. But let's compare that with customer B. They, too, have a good management team. They're all the same age as the owner, who is getting ready to retire, and they've expressed a desire to leave when he does. The company's systems aren't documented, and rather they are between the ears of the management team. And remember, they're leaving. So which company do you think is worth more? Pretty obvious, isn't it? A. So would you pay more for A? Absolutely. So developing those value drivers are very, very important, and it's your job as an owner to do that. So let's talk about some incentive plans and why those are so important to put in place. The results that you want from the employee plans are motivated employees to increase the company's cash flow during the sales process, and to keep employees on board before the sale, during the sale, and definitely as far after the transition as possible. And, the goal is to reward the employee when the business is sold. So these plans definitely have some attributes that you need to be looking for. And I bet most of you on the call haven't even thought about this, of having an incentive plans for your employees to stay. And so many of my clients will say, Joan, do I really have to do this? And my answer is absolutely. And we're going to talk about why. So you need to earmark a significant slice of the future value to the key employees who help create the value. And that incentive, that handcuff, the incentive is going to handcuff them, rather, during the actual sales process and through the earn-out period. Incentives are perceived as a win-win situation for both company and key employees. So you definitely need to plan and implement this well before the transfer actually happens, and ideally before key employees even know about it. So the nature of these incentive plans depend on the time frame between now and the eventual sale. So let's talk about the short-term key employee incentive plan. This is called a stay bonus, and it promises from the one they like and respect. This is something that's going to be coming from you, not the new owner. A lot of my clients have said, well, why don't we have the new buyer pay for this? Well, remember, you're the one that they've built loyalty with. You're the ones they trust. And these employees have played a great part, haven't they, in getting your business where it is, and they really want to share in that windfall. And they know that you're not going to get as far in the sale of the business if they leave. So they really do know they have a little power here, and they really want to share in that. So first of all, this gives them a reason to stay, not leave. Secondly, this stay bonus can increase your business value. So you're going to have more when you definitely do the closing. And third, it's kind of a carrot and a stick. The carrot is the incentive that they're going to want to be able to get this bonus after a while. The stick could be to get them to sign a covenant not to compete and an employment agreement. So you want to ensure that these employees are not going to take vendors, they're not going to take clients, employees, and the trade secrets elsewhere. And buyers are going to feel that the covenant not to compete will be a real value. This is going to be a driver that's going to, again, make that buyer feel very confident, less risk, knowing those people are going to stay. You're going to feel good about it, too. I know I would feel if I sold my business, the people that helped make it successful, I would feel really good in sharing in that windfall with them. And you're going to want to do it. So how do you determine how much to give them? There's really three things you need to look at. Either the uninvested benefits of any existing key employee benefit program, the percentage of the anticipated purchase price that you wish to give your employees, or you may just come up with a flat amount of money to give them. So let's look and see how you're going to do this. So here's a fictional case. Let's talk about Ewing Lubricants. It's a $10 million business value he hopes to get for the business. He has quite a few employees, 48, 3 key employees. These are the ones that will probably be a part of this incentive plan. And the financial objective of Mr. Ewing is he wants this to happen as soon as possible, and he hopes to have $8 million cash after taxes. So he's definitely talked with some advisors to get that percentage out of the $10 million. Just know that Mr. Ewing is probably mentally checked out. He has been for years. He could be relying on these 3 employees to be keeping the business going. And let's just assume he unofficially promised them a piece of the pie upon the sale. he knew that if any of that management team left before the sale would be in jeopardy. Somebody has a question. I think we're going to try to answer those at the end of the seminar, but thanks so much for writing that, Sally. We will definitely cover that. So it's very typical to have that scenario of viewing was very typical. So key employees are never so key as when the owner begins existing the business, and some pretty obvious reasons. Oh, by the way, the average time that an owner keeps his business is 7 years, and we talk with many people that have been at it 20 or 30, so I know they've mentally checked out. And they're not very motivated. The fire in the belly's gone, and it's really tough for some of them to get to work. I know I dealt with one owner. He had a small manufacturing company, and he had done it like 25 years, and he had checked out for probably 2 years. So what happened is the business started decreasing, and his employees were not having much fun because they knew he didn't care about the business anymore, so why should they? So you don't want to get to that point. Don't get to the burnout stage. So another reason that it's key, the key employees are never so key, is that buyers are definitely buying cash flow, and they pay top dollar for that, and they expect to increase that after the purchase of the business. So it's really going to fall to the key employees to drive that cash flow during the time that the person that's wanting to get out, they're the ones that are really going to do it, and so you want to motivate them. Key management is vital to a new owner. Without it, you really might not be able to sell. So you're going to want to do everything you can to ensure that security for the new buyer. And key management definitely needs to stay to ensure an earn-out. Just to make sure everybody understands what an earn-out is, it's a method to really bridge the gap between what a seller expects to garner from the sale of his business versus what a buyer's unwillingness is to pay a premium for projections of future profits. So, the seller may say, I think I can get $5 million for my business based on my projections for the end of the year, and a buyer is saying, I'm willing to pay you X, but not Y, because, we still have 4 months left of the year, and so there's that earn-out. And that difference is paid once the business performs, post-sale, as predicted by the seller. So that having those key employees there is going to definitely ensure that that earn-out will probably be earned. Key management provides an owner with an alternative exit strategy. So let's say that sale doesn't happen, then possibly the employees could buy the business. So the quid pro quo, that means basically that the management receives money for staying in return for agreeing to a non-compete. Now, some of you may be thinking, is that non-compete enforceable? Technically, no. But if you have good, loyal employees and you've paid them money, good, ethical people will probably live up to their agreement. But the laws in California for employees, no, it is not enforceable. Okay? Formulating the stay bonus. There's different ways you can do this, but let's say Chase agrees to escrow 10% of that net profit. And let's say his business is worth $10 million. He's going to put around $1 million in escrow. And then after or 10% of the after-tax, so it might be around $800. And then each manager will be entitled to a stay bonus equal to his prorated share of the escrow amount as they become vested, and I'm going to explain that. And the vested schedule provides 33% vesting per year for each of the 3 years. So, for example, he gets a third, the manager gets a third of his share at closing, which is a real motivator, and then he receives the next third at the first anniversary and the last third at the second anniversary. By this time, I think the seller or the buyer is going to feel pretty secure after 2 years. He's been able to build, a good relationship with his employees, and the fact that they would be moving on would be slim to none, I would think, at this time. But they're free to. So this definitely minimizes risk, accelerates vesting out, and gives the key employees who were instrumental in your being able to sell your business at a nice amount of cash. And so in this case, those 3 managers made around $300,000. And remember, a third of it was at closing, a third was the first anniversary, and a third was the second anniversary. Okay, that's the short term. And the short term is typically if you're going to be selling your business in the next 2 years. That's a good way to do it. If it's 3 to 5 years, you want to do a long-term or non-qualified deferred compensation plan. And this shares many of the same characteristics of the short term, but it benefits to the employees increase as the value of your business increases. So vesting in a cash-based plan and risk of forfeiture. So some of the benefits is you're going to have it planned, well done if you're not planning on selling for 5 years, so you don't have to disclose your intent to sell. You're setting it up to incent your key management, and it definitely motivates key employees to grow the business value because they're going to get more, and they'll even stay if you don't end up selling the business. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see there's some of these are stock options, purchase or bonus plans, non-qualified deferred compensation plan, but those are basically for 5 years or more. So most of you that are on the phone are probably thinking of doing it within 2 to 3 years probably, and I just commend you, by the way, on thinking ahead. Okay, our next slide. Our next part of our webinar is going to be covered by Eric Nielsen, and he's going to cover as much as we can before 45 minutes, and then we're going to have time for questions. So Eric, value driver number 2.
Thank you, Joan. Can you hear me okay? I want to make sure everybody can hear me.
I can, and they're on mute. So.
Great. Okay, great. I just want to make sure that I was coming through loud and clear. Thanks for that presentation on the management team. The most key value driver I think that we can pay attention to in trying to maximize business value for a sale or exit. But there are other things that we can do as we look ahead and get ready to prepare our businesses for sale. And the second value driver that we want to review here is systems. And again, I think it's important throughout this presentation to put yourself into the buyer's shoes. And indeed, risk is a big component. And so buyers are looking to mitigate risk wherever possible, and when they can find ways to eliminate it or find some security, they're going to be more apt to move quickly and pay top dollar for businesses that they appear to have less risk and are performing well. So, if you leave shortly after the sale, what remains really? Joan spent a great deal of time on the management team, and we know how important that is. But equally important are going to be some efficient and documented systems and that will give you and the buyer confidence that the business is going to be performing well. And you can see some of them that we've listed here: financial controls, compliance with regulatory matters, data management, information systems, and you can go down the line. And putting together some documentation on these is extremely important. Process maps, all with flow charts, and whatever you can do to document these systems will add a great deal of value to your business and provide a great deal of security for the buyer. It ensures the quality and consistency can be maintained after the sale. So signals to the buyer that everything's in place for future success. So obviously appropriate systems and procedures are going to vary widely depending on the nature of your particular business, but at the very least the resources and activities necessary for effective operation of your business should be documented. Value driver number 3. This is Joan touched on this a little bit. Established and diversified customer base. So account concentration is an issue, and it can be a double-edged sword. When a lot of businesses are young and getting started, they may establish relationships with 1 or 2 accounts who are really feeding them a lot of work and doing a lot of business and responsible for rapid growth, great profitability. And that's a good thing. That's a good news. But as your business matures, that can become risky. It's no secret that if in many industries, if your account concentration with a single account is 50, 60, 70%, if that account leaves, many times it can mean the end of your business. And, of course, the same risk is present when a buyer is looking at your business to purchase. So, what do buyers want? They want to see a little bit more security, and that means diversifying the customer base and having, your largest customer at least represent no more than maybe 8, 9, 10% of your business. With a good, good balanced, diversified base amongst the rest of the customers. So a thing to consider if you're going to market, if you have a single customer that is really representing a lot of your business, at the very best, you can expect a sale that's going to have a large contingent payment component, and that's going to mean either a note or an earn-out. And this is how a buyer is going to protect themselves from the fact that they may lose a large and significant account. But I think more importantly is to consider what that means for you as a seller. If you're selling your business, do you want to risk your gains on the sale and trust the management of a single large account to a new owner who may lose that account and may then not pay you for your business? So account diversification is important. So how can you solve this problem? Well, I think we could spend a lot of time on that, but some simple answers are to increase some capacity so that you can handle more accounts and diversify, acquire customers, diversification by acquiring other companies, adding product lines, just building your account base, and you will add value to your company. Appearance of the business. This is one of my favorite value drivers because I think people don't think of this very often, but you've got to think about who sees your facilities, and buyers may be where you least expect them. And a lot of buyers have businesses where they say, well, customers never see my business, and they don't come here. We do business over the internet, over the phone, however. But and some owners get pretty, what's the best way to say it, economical when they devote financial resources to the physical appearances of their businesses. And they can't make a direct connection between an investment in the quality of their appearance of their business and a return. So, but again, your customers are where you least expect them. You may be meeting with vendors or large customers in your facilities, and who knows, these may be potential buyers. So the look of your physical facility or plant can convey your company culture and extend your brand image, and overall appearance is important. A picture is worth 1,000 words. We've all heard this. In a business sale, it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So keep that in mind. What people see is critically important to them. Dirty seat back trays equal poor engine maintenance. This is one of my favorite quotes. This comes from Tom Peters back in the 80s. He wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. He wanted to know what made companies excellent, and appearance was one of the one of the value drivers that he identified. And so I think for a moment, if you're going out on vacation or traveling for business and you get on the airplane and you sit down in your seat and you pull down the seat back tray and it's all dirty, what kind of confidence does that give you that the airlines has maintained their engine maintenance properly? So just keep in mind that appearances are very important. You can build your value and at least not destroy it by having a favorable looking facility. Realistic growth strategies. This is a very important value driver because, as Joan mentioned, buyers are buying cash flow, and they're going to pay premium prices for companies who are not only have good cash flow today, but where they can see into the future that there's going to be some significant growth. And how that growth is going to happen for you, or where that's going to come from, depends on a couple of things. Industry dynamics. Are you in a growth industry? Are you making buggy whips and going to be obsolete? Historical growth is important. Obviously, if you've documented your financial reports, you'll be able to show the growth of the company, revenues, cash flow, and profitability. Will there be increased demand for your products and services? Are you gaining market share? Do you have innovative products that are going to be in demand? This would be along with new products and product lines as well. And expanding your territory. This is a geographic play to grow your business. So you can't expect buyers to appreciate growth opportunities unless you speak convincingly about them. And when I say speak, certainly you want to be able to tell your story about your growth, but having a written plan is really the best way. And if you document your growth strategies, again, you will mitigate some of the risks that may be perceived by potential buyers. So even if you plan to sell tomorrow, get your written plan together and describe your future growth and how that growth will be achieved based on some of these bullet points that we've talked about. Value driver number 6 is effective and documented financial controls. I can't tell you how important this is. You can't show potential buyers the financial performance of your company. You probably won't be able to sell your business. So it's a critical element not only for you to manage your business, safeguard your company assets, but also to verify for the buyer the financial condition of your company. So verifying that, documenting these financial reports and verifying those is extremely important. So keep in mind that the buyers are going to pour over your financials with their advisors, and if they can't get completely comfortable when they're reviewing your past financial performance, there most likely won't be a deal. And at best, it would be a lowball offer. So not a good way to drive value. Get those financial reports in order and make sure that they're verified. So when an audit is a good thing. Now, the term audit, and you can see the little cartoon there, conjures up a lot of negative thoughts when we talk about that. Everybody thinks of an IRS audit. And really what we're talking about here is an audit of your financial reports by a established and accredited certified audit by a CPA firm. This will bring a lot of confidence to potential buyers and will add value to your company. So we want to try to remove some of the skepticism that the buyers will naturally have when looking at a business for the first time and trying to understand the financial performance. And just to back up, one of the things you can consider an audit is like an investment. So really it works for you to help you drive value up and increase the marketability of your business. the lack of financial integrity being one of the most common hurdles in the process. Paying income tax makes you money. I'm sorry, that's a typo there. Or makes your money. I see the word. And how can that be? A lot of business owners are running personal expenses and unrelated business expenses through their business, and this is commonly done to manage tax liability and income taxes. But it can be false economy when you're looking to maximize the value of your business and bring your company to market for sale. Just a quick example for every dollar that you expense and don't pay taxes on, assuming you're in a 30% tax bracket, you're going to save 30 cents. But if you can let that dollar fall to the bottom line and you're working off of multiples of 3, 4, or 5 times, you're foregoing, you're saving 30 cents and foregoing $3, $4, or $5. And I don't think we have to do the math to understand how sound of a strategy it is to maximize the profitability and pay those taxes. So paying the income taxes, cleaning up the books on the year or two prior to the sale can add tremendous value for you. Financial growth and cash flow, profitability and revenue is a value driver number 7. Joan touched on this a little bit. Buyers buy cash flow, and they're going to pay top dollar for the cash flow they expect, and they also want the cash flow to increase after they buy the company. So take a look at this little chart for a minute. You'll see both companies are reporting an average $2 million in, I guess that would be, let's call it EBITDA for now. Company A not showing any growth at all. Company B, of course, showing significant growth. So with a 3-year average of $2 million, which company, again, is going to look more valuable to you, and which one do you think is going to, drive a bigger price in the marketplace? So some suggestions. What can you do? Obviously, there's some things it's important, especially in the year of the preceding the sale of business, the cash flow will be substantial and on the upswing. What are some of the things that we can do? Spend more time at the office. A lot of business owners may have checked out or become absentee, and business may not be running as efficiently or as profitably as it could. So if you are in that situation, get back in there, spend a little time making sure that the business is operating at maximum profitability. Work on and not in the business. Everybody's heard this. If you're flipping the hamburgers, it's hard to make the business as valuable as it can. So if your goal is to leave the business and what you're doing is indispensable to the business, it'll be difficult for you to sell the business for top dollar or leave the business. Implement any new procedures. If you can find any ways to improve efficiencies or the effectiveness of the operation, get those in place. Stop using the business as your personal pocketbook. I think this is an interesting one, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Try to minimize the amount of personal expenses that you're running through the business, and clean up the P&Ls and get everything on the straight and narrow. Running a lot of personal expenses through can depress and deplete cash flow, and it's hard to convince buyers. It's hard to factor those back in and convince buyers that of the true earnings. List the ways, if you are running personal expenses through, be sure to list out the ways that you're benefiting financially from the company. This could be excessive compensation for you or family members. It could include cars, vacations, recreational vehicles, excessive rental payments if you own lease payments if you own the building, or if you're leasing equipment back to the company. Don't play any games with the balance sheet. I see this done a lot with companies that have inventory. For tax purposes, they want to drive this inventory number down each and every year to increase their cost of goods sold and lower their taxes. But it'll come back to bite you at the time of sale. And you want to make sure that your balance sheet is good and strong. Avoid unnecessary capital expenditures immediately prior to the sale. And the key here is unnecessary. Some businesses need to make capital expenditures each and every year to remain profitable and on a growth path. But the key is unnecessary, so if there's anything that you can put off, conserve that cash. And the last value driver, and this one we won't spend hardly any time on, is protected proprietary technologies. And a lot of business owners have some patents or some proprietary processes that they have in their business, and I would encourage you, if you have those, make sure that all of your legal documentation is in place, your patents are protected, and everything is documented. And even if you have a business that may not be making a lot of money, you may still have some value there. So keeping those documents and those patents in order can drive significant value for other strategic buyers, synergistic buyers who may be able to use your patents in their process to drive their value up. So keep those in place. That kind of concludes. I think getting a premium price for the sale of your business is going to depend in large part upon your efforts to adopt and implement some of the value drivers we've talked about. And I think concentrating and developing each of these value drivers will help you increase the value of your company and get a premium price when it's time to sell.
Thank you, Eric.
I think, throw this back over to Joan. I know I have a little bit of time left for some Q&A.
Yeah, we have two questions that I wanted to address. One of them was, is that compete clause, is it enforceable, the non-compete that we talked about? And as you probably know, California laws are employee-favored, but I think having an employee sign a non-compete will give the buyer some added security when purchasing the business, and it'll give the seller some security that, that he or she has done everything they can to secure trade secrets and proprietary technology, et cetera. So I think by having non-compete will give your employees some pause before they do, because as you know, it's a very litigious state, that I think they'll think twice before they share information, take employees with them. So I think you're absolutely right. It is not enforceable, but I think it would definitely, I know I had a non-compete with an employee, and I think they've been very cautious. They did leave, and they went to a competitor, but from what I've heard, they don't know any more about how we do business than they would have before. So, I feel okay about that. Another question we had was about the audit that Eric mentioned. They have $1 million business or around that, and asked would they have to do an audit. In my experience, it is the larger firms that do the audits, 10, 20 million, and the step right before an audit would be a review. Is that right, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
And so typically it is for the larger businesses, but anything you can do to give security to that buyer, if that's what they need. I've had many sellers turn that down. They said they're not going to go through that expense. But if it meant selling your business or not, then it might be worth doing it. But it typically doesn't get to that point. And if you're keeping good records as you go, I think the best thing, even if it means putting your business on the market months after you thought you wanted to go on, you just want to have everything so clean, because what I've seen happen, I had a very nice listing probably 3 years ago, and there was an error that had happened very innocently, and the buyer, once he saw that, he didn't trust anything else after that. And, of course, it sold, but to another buyer that got to know the seller and understood that he was a very ethical guy. It was innocent. It was not done by him. It was done by his bookkeeper that just made an error, and they refiled their taxes and made everything straight. So just be very, very clean with your books, I would say. Is there, I guess we can take it off mute, and if
the conference has been unmuted.
Let's see, we have other one.
Joan, I'd like to make a comment about the non-compete.
Okay.
While California doesn't enforce non-competes, in the context of drafting non-competes, in the context of a stay bonus, and I'm not an attorney, so I would suggest people get legal advice, but there may be some enforceability if the non-competes are in exchange for some type of compensation. Other than regular salary. In this case, we're talking about significant bonuses. So that adds a little teeth to the non-compete, other than or different from just hey, we're going to employ you here, but you have to sign a non-compete. And the other part of that, the stay bonus, with the vestings and payout schedules, if somebody violates that non-compete, then those bonus monies or those compensation that's been set up can be pulled back, and so it gives the non-compete a little bit of financial teeth as well. So
excellent point. We had another question: was what is the average length of time it takes to sell a business under $1 million? Well, the $1 million question would be, how are your value drivers? Are they in place? Does your business look good? How's your management? But let's say you have, good value drivers and your business is profitable, then I would say what we're finding, anywhere from 3 months to 9 months. We've done many, I'd say a handful in 3 months. That is not the average. And I would say the average is about 6 months if those things are in place. I just put a mid-market business on the web pages, all of our different sites, and within 1 week we had a letter of intent. Now, that is unusual, but it has every one of the value drivers that you would want, and we would have had multiple offers if it had been on longer. But he took it off the market so that he could look at it, and we gave him a shorter exclusive period of time just because of the timing. We have another question. If you don't have a management team, and I assume key employees fill that aspect of the value drivers.
Yeah, let me interject something here. Many times we will, or I will define a management team as at least one or more key employees.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
It's essentially the value driver is, the size of the business is going to decide whether your team is 1 key employee or 3 key employees or 6 key employees. But essentially, what we're looking for here is from the buyer's perspective, again, important to keep that in mind, is that it's not all about Bob, and that if you leave the business, what's left, and is there somebody there that can operate the business in your absence? So a management team can be described as 1 or more key employees, depending on the size of the business.
Yeah, so if you're the one that's doing the marketing as a seller, you're the one that's doing all the customer service and all that, then your business isn't going to be worth much. So if you don't have key people that can handle things, and you could be gone 3 or 4 days and things don't fall apart, that's what you need to set it up so that you're not as key as you might be now. Hope that helped. I think that's the end of our questions. We are putting on our webinars every month, and we missed August due to vacations and everything interfering, but we will be holding one in October. We'll make sure that you get the topic. If you have any suggestions of what you really want covered in a webinar, please send that to me. and we'll be glad to look at that and put that in the months to come. So thank you so much for joining us, and be sure and let us know if we can help you at all, whether it's helping you get your business valued with any value drivers that you want to discuss. Of course, there's no obligation. Just call us. Our commitment is to make sure our business owners are educated and get their business in a position to get the most value when they are ready. So any help we can be to you, feel free to call Eric or myself. Enjoy your day and make it a profitable one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.